way, the other day, the,
We are recording.
okay, we'll talk.
We are live, it is Memorex.
6 o'clock, it is 6 o'clock. And seeing a quorum, I will call a meeting for, this is the November 13th, 2025, a meeting of the Harwich Finance Committee in order. Let's see, for a quorum, we have here Michelle Gallucci, Dana DaCosta, Peter Hughes, Dan Twark, Mark Peterson, Tina Games, and myself, Bob McCready. We also have joining us for a conversation, the town administrator, Tony Schiavi.
Good evening.
Hi, Tony.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
Just seeing you on the other side of a camera.
For Tony's sake, I am going to skip anything else and let's have our conversation with,
Want me to scoot up or?
please do.
Yes, sir.
Please come up to the
Never
table.
approach the head table without permission.
The head table. Exactly right.
That's a naming custom, though, right?
And first, I'd like to open it up to Mr. Schiavi to comment as he would like on joining us for the first, I guess, the first official time.
For the first official time, yes, well, thank you for having me. Obviously, we're in a busy time of year right now. I kind of view everything that we do as kind of a team effort, right? So we're all trying to row in the same direction, particularly when it comes to budget, finance, accounting, making sure that we're doing the best that we can for the taxpayer efficiently, right? And I kind of maybe approach some of these a little differently than maybe others, just because my background's a little bit, different. But I think at the end of the day, the track record is, really, helping to improve how we, count for money, spend money, allocate money, right? Thankfully, here, a little different than the other two communities I worked in. When I walked in the door, million plus every year in free cash to balance the operating budget. You're faced with some challenges. But what I would say is my approach to addressing things like that, we're fixed within one budget cycle without any loss of services, programs, people, whatever. So I'm all about getting in and, sort of doing a bottom-up review of everything we're doing to try to identify, best practices and, things like that. So obviously, this budget will be the one and only one I'll ever probably be involved in. But I still take the same approach to that, and we can talk a little bit about, I don't know if anybody's been, we've put a page on the selectmen's page where we're uploading all kinds of, financial documents, right? The audit report, the budget message from the select board, my budget message, the time, budget creation timeline that we created, the presentation from the other evening. So we're continuing to populate that so people in the community or others that are interested in seeing what we're doing, where we're doing, how we're doing it, it's available, right? I'm all about transparency, and I think the more that we show people what we're doing and how we're doing things, I think the more trust you build with that. And arguably we go to town meeting and ask the voters that are present for a lot of money, right? A lot of things to support everything we're doing, including the schools, and we have to go in there with trust and integrity in what we're presenting, making sure that we can answer all the questions that may come up. So we have to do that work. So we can talk a little bit about what we're doing right now today, leading up to when we deliver the budget to the select board, and then gets it transferred to the finance committee for you to do your work and oversight and make recommendations to town meeting. So I look at the relationship between myself and the finance committee is incredibly important, because at some point you all will take a vote on all the financial stuff that we're presenting, and you're the voice to town meeting, sort of the gatekeeper, if you will, for those that are voting, a kind of an independent voice in recommending to them on any type of spending article that might come before them. So yeah, happy to be here.
Well, thank you. And at that point, then, I will open up the meeting to people who have questions they would like to ask of the town administrator. I know that Peter specifically had some, so let's start there.
You know, I think it's worth taking 2 minutes just to describe, Tony, what the relationship between the FinCom and the rest of the town government was under the last administration. We had a town administrator who was paranoid, in my opinion, didn't want any information to get released unless he said, here it is, you can have it. Insisted that we had a liaison from the Board of Selectmen, that we had, even if I wanted to ask him, when's your birthday, I had to ask the liaison and wait X amount of days and things come back. Specifically, that town administrator told some department heads, I know in my case, not to interact with me at all. Like if I called them up and said, how many tons of salt did you use last year? Don't talk to me. And they would all talk to me because it was a bad situation down there. So, and by the way, finance director was going like this all the time, right? So I think what I'm looking for is a new beginning there, and get back to what we used to do is a normal thing that, you know, if I have a question I can ask you and not, you know, not have to dance around. And likewise, with the finance director, we would actually like to see that person maybe every other month or something coming to our meetings and just giving us updates and telling us where we are. So I look forward to a brand new relationship.
Good.
I think that once Joe Powers announced he was leaving, we sent to the Board of Selectmen, I'll give you this, just some recommendations on how to improve things potentially. And you don't have to read all that now.
Okay, all right.
But it was just, you know, it was just one of those things that we were trying to make it better.
Right.
And the main sticking point for us was 204 Cistern Road. In about May or June of 2024, I was the chair at that time, went to the selectmen and said, hey, we want to put the discussion about 204, breaking even, losing money, whatever, to bed. So how about we get some information from the finance director at the time and do an analysis and a report. So, and I'll give you this report to take with you.
Okay.
So we did. And lo and behold, we found out there were many gaps in the data that they couldn't find for us. Like, I'm making this up. In 2018, what was the gas bill? They couldn't tell us. What was the septic bill? They couldn't tell us. They couldn't figure out where it was paid from. Okay? So you'll see in there, we came to the conclusion that the balance on that revolving account, year after year after year, ended up going negative. If you put some assumptions in, like $50,000, whatever it was for electric, whatever the history looked like, not a good thing. Now we understand, and we're all part of it, that when they set up that building as a municipal building, they did it as a revolving account because they didn't have any idea what was going to happen. Was anybody going to rent a studio or not? But what's clear is 90-some-odd% of the revenue comes from the studios. The rest is from programs, which the programs, in my opinion, should be part of a revolving fund. That should be used to run those programs. The operation of the building, gas, electric, whatever, should be in a budget and funded that way. We went to DOR, explained the situation. They told us absolutely it's inappropriate to run a municipal building on a revolving account. We brought all that back to the selectmen. They decided to sit in their hands. Okay, when it got closer to town meeting, we started talking about do we get up there and fight about the revolving accounts, blah, blah, blah. It got to be too late in the cycle, so we said, not gonna do it, but we had a handshake with them that it would get straightened out in this budget cycle. So that's where that stands. And I'd be happy to sit with you if you need me, or, you know,
Yeah, I
Scott
mean, let me-
Nolan went through it.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, let me read through it. I mean,
Yeah.
I've got a little bit of information from the director over there because some things had changed. So I go back to the initial town meeting article, right? Because I look at, okay, what was the intent, right? And with any revolving account, I don't know why this happened. And maybe it was 4 years ago, but my understanding, when town meeting votes on the revolving funds, right, and sets the maximum, amount for each of those accounts, they're in that table, they're supposed to, put on there what is the allowed use of the revolving fund. at least generally, right? You're not gonna write a huge paragraph, but somehow that's fallen off. So sometimes what ends up happening is you sort of have mission creep sometimes, right?
Yeah.
And some of these revolving accounts can go back decades, right? And people kind of forget, why did we establish it in the first place? So for me, that's where I start. Go back to the town meeting article, the motion, et cetera, to see, okay, what was the intent of the article? So I kind of start there. As it relates to, when the building was first started and, if there were some accounting issues and, things like that, when I'm meeting with the department heads, if they have a revolving account, right, so whether it's recreation, I think we have 14 of them, they're coming armed with that information that we're gonna go through to include, what is the current balance in the account, what's the accounting, data look like, that sort of thing. So my understanding, and I'll verify this because I haven't met with Cultural Affairs Director yet on this, but that at least at this point it appears that if you ran a report of the revolving account, the ins and the outs, you would see all the utility payments and that kind of information. So if that's there, we'll make it available certainly for folks to look at. I think generally we just have to come to a consensus about what is it that we want to do with the building and how do we want to account for it. So I'm at the infancy stage, I think, in terms of collecting data. I will tell you though, as we get ready to sign the engagement letter for the FY25 audit, anytime you have an audit done, management can say, hey, look, auditors, I want you to look at specific things.
Right.
I always have ones that I do every time. One of them's cash, right? Departments have cash. We want to understand cash control and all that, so that's in there. An audit of the revolving account is being put in there for that, all the revolving accounts. And also a more detailed audit in the Affordable Housing Trust. So those are kind of the, at least 3 things that, are gonna be part of a more in-depth, audit look at some of that. I think when we get a finance director on board, these are some of the things we're gonna wanna, have them dive into. So we've been thin for a while, as you guys know, a little bit of a revolving door and lost some corporate knowledge when Megan Green left. So people are still trying to get up to speed. So so let me read through the documentation. Let me talk to the director over there and see what our accounting system today shows about that. Obviously, what happened in the past, was the past. I do know that the max amount of the revolving accounts changed over time. Apparently, when it was first set up, it was 225, I think was
300 now.
the max, and now it's 100, according to the information she gave me. So
I don't think that's what was voted last year.
Yeah, no, I think.
I don't know. She told me 100, unless it's a typo on the thing. I have the book because I pulled that out of the town meeting.
Now, in that documentation, you'll find there was an article, the last article of annual town meeting in 2022. It was a petition article. Petition article, I think your wife was behind, right?
Not a chance.
Yeah. To do an independent study, market analysis, blah, 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 of how to use that building and what to do. In the words of that, towards the end, it basically says, so that it breaks even. Okay? So that it breaks even. The article passed with no money.
Mhm.
The selectmen got up and claimed they had some money, they were gonna do it. They never did a study. But the intent of that article, in my mind, at the bottom line that says, basically, to break even, is something we needed. I mean, that passed. Right?
When was that? Was 2022?
That was 2022. The last article was either like 59 or 49 or something like that.
Okay.
But it was the last article, it was a petition article. And if you read
22.
that, you'll see it.
Okay.
Except for the herringfish, but yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I know, but I mean, the last,
Yeah.
the last sort of regular.
Yeah, so just in general on revolving funds, so right now I'm taking a look at, I think one of the interest items is, what are the overall balances in the account compared to what they're allowed to spend, right? So I reviewed one today, looking year over year to see how much money, revenue's coming in on an annual basis, what their limit is, how much they're spending. Now, again, you don't want to necessarily spend it down to zero, right? Because, the next year you may not rate, you may not bring in as much, so it's designed to offset certain approved costs, right, in terms of how they were created. So, so we're looking at that as part of this budget process too, in terms of all the different, revolving accounts.
Yep.
I mean, they serve a valid purpose. Everybody has them. Obviously, state law allows you to have them. So, I mean, I think it's always a good idea to, do a check, right,
Yeah.
on them every so often to make sure they're, staying, in line with how they were created and what town meeting.
In our opinion, that building should be financially operated the same as the community center, for instance. Community center has some of its own revolving fund stuff like rec and youth, et cetera, et
Right,
cetera.
right.
But they have a budget for gas, electric,
Mhm.
telephone, that kind of stuff.
Yep.
So,
I want to stop here briefly, now that our technology is working.
oh, look who's there.
There he is.
I've been watching him shake his head up and down.
Scott Norm, I think, is here now
You on
on
Mars?
remote. Hello, Scott. Welcome.
North Carolina, it looks like Mars, that's Hinkley's Pond, actually.
Well, we are sitting here talking with the town administrator, and actually, I'll take this opportunity. I think you might have had a question or two for the town administrator yourself, so here's your chance.
Well, I had the question about, to Jennifer and therefore to you also, Tony, on the 10th, I guess that was Monday,
Yep.
about the way debt service is reflected both in that presentation and also in our Appendix B or Schedule B, whatever the operating budget is. That number for debt service tends to be around $3 million. But then there was a slide on Monday that said that exempt debt service was $5.7 million. So all of a sudden, my reality was shaken. All of a sudden, there's this other debt service that isn't even appearing on the main operating budget. So my main question that I stated on Monday, I'll state it again, is where does that exempt debt service appear? And therefore, a corollary question, where does the extra tax receipts that we receive related to exempt debt service appear in the operating budget? Is it excluded from the standard operating budget presentations?
I don't, well, I mean, I haven't sat through previous ones, so I'm not 100% sure. But obviously, we'll make sure this time that it's clear, because obviously we have some non-excluded debt, right? We just borrowed for the irrigation system at the golf course, right? So that was non-excluded debt.
Right.
So we do have non-excluded. So excluded debt, obviously, we can't, calculate and track, because it affects, based on Proposition 2.5 and all that kind of stuff, right? So, and obviously, we tax separately for those to make sure we're bringing in the funding to support the excluded debt, right? So we see that on our taxes as well.
Right.
So let me find out how they're reflecting that when the operating budget and making sure that they're, broken out so we can see both sides of it, right? Where the debt service is for excluded debt and obviously for non-excluded debt.
I mean, my hypothesis, just looking at the number, is that excluded debt is excluded from the standard operating budget schedule.
Correct.
Which seems odd to me, because that means that part of the tax levy must be excluded as well. And that's kind of a disconnect from the operating budget to what taxpayers are facing in their bills that I think is inappropriate. One of the goals that I have on the Finance Committee is to get a better, more transparent link between the commitments we make, especially for capital, and the impact on tax bills. I prepared a schedule, 6 or 8 months ago, that you could punch in your assessed value and the capital project amount, 10 million, 8 million, whatever, and it would tell you how much your tax bill would go up because of that capital project. Not that I'm saying that we have to do that sort of a schedule for people, but it's the sort of thing that I think we should be aware of when we approve or endorse capital projects and the debt service that will follow.
Yeah, so I think,
Anyway.
so we're right now working with Jen to create a new way to present sources and uses, right, that has a lot more detail. So in the sources section at the top is always where you have the 2.5% increase, new growth, and then there's a line for excluded debt service, right? So you know exactly how much you're raising through excluded, for excluded debt, right? That ends up on our taxes, so that line will be, broken out there. And then obviously below that, you have all the other local receipts, state aid, all the other, categories she had on her pie chart. And then in the operating budget, you should see the line for the debt service so that you can see, how much is going out the other side. So I just need to check and make sure that it's reflective of, right? Because we're raising it up here, we should be spending it down here to include non-excluded debt, which that's where you see it is down here. Because that's coming out of the operating budget. So hopefully when we get that completed, it's a lot more detail than you've probably ever seen, but I need it, I use it, so I'm like, why not share it, right? I mean,
Right.
it just makes sense that everybody ought to understand where our numbers are coming from, and frankly, we have a lot of smart people that may pick up something we don't necessarily see, so, so hopefully we can make a draft presentation of that, sometime in early December. We're still trying to fine tune it. I'm not the Excel expert, so Jen's working real hard to get that. She sent me a draft, I just need to take a look at it.
Okay, great. I mean, my only other pet peeve is the 5-year operating forecast.
Really?
That we
No.
claim that we do every year in our annual comprehensive financial report.
And we're falling off a cliff.
I've never seen one, and I just think it's important, when we look, at capital outlay, we look at these projects, $50 million of projects, it's not all debt, but most of it's debt. And what is the impact over the next 5 years on the operating budget? So you have to convert the capital expense to debt service, which means you have to assume how much is not free cash and is instead debt service. I know there's a lot of assumptions, interest rates and amortization periods, but you gotta take some sort of a shot to
Sure.
create a 5-year operating forecast, and I think we really need to start putting that back into the regular business.
Okay. Yeah, and I know there was one done back in May, right, under the previous administrator. I haven't studied it yet. It was in the, it should be in the town meeting handbook, because there is one. It was dated May 25, but I haven't studied it, so, and you're,
I would love to see that. I've never seen a 5-year operating
Okay.
forecast.
yeah, we're required to create one. I thought it was in the town meeting book, but I can certainly send you what was done in May 25. You can see what that was. I'm not really sure all the
Great.
data behind it, but I can show you what we currently have. We'll see how that can get changed in the
Like you
future.
said,
but-
Thank you.
Or if you could just let us know where to find it.
Maybe that's the
problem.
Yeah, I can
Doesn't
put it
get
up
to
on that
us.
select board page, for all the budget stuff.
We have to get a spoon
I
for
just
that.
don't take any responsibility for the accuracy of the data, so, but it is what was created May 25, because we're required to do that every year, so, but
And
surprise.
that's what it says, and we're all kind of, it's a
Yeah.
mystery to people
Right,
as to
right.
where this required document really
Okay,
sits.
yeah. All right.
All right,
We're working on a new one of those too, just.
are
I
you
don't-
good, Scott?
That's it for me until we get further down in the agenda, yeah.
All right, let me keep
I've
going
got a
on this
question- we have a
side.
question
Dana.
here.
Well, that's okay, it's just, are you sure?
Ladies first.
So,
please.
well, two things. The page that you're referencing where these documents are, I can't find it.
Okay.
Can you,
Yeah.
okay, cause I just would like to know where it is for my own knowledge, but
Mhm.
also for people who ask me.
Okay, yeah, so if you go on the town's website,
Yep,
to the select board
Yep.
page, right, so you go into government committees and boards and
Yep.
committees, select board, up in the upper left, you'll see some hyperlinks. One at the very top will reference annual town meeting 26. I don't think it says 2020, I think it just says 26.
yeah, I'm not,
She's
yeah.
gonna, she's gonna test this while
Yeah.
we're.
I was just on it, so I know it's
Okay,
there.
so maybe it's a laptop, cause I haven't been able to find, but I'll look for it, so now
Okay,
that I know
all right.
it's there, I just wanna
It is
find
there, I can verify that, I just looked
Okay,
at it,
good.
yeah.
The other quick thing I'm going, just building off of what Scott said with the 5-year forecast. So I'm fairly new to this committee, came off of school committee where I served for 7 years. So one of the things I'm looking to do with what Scott said is run that 5-year forecast, because Monomoy does it,
Mhm.
and I'd like to see the 5-year parallel. For me, I'd like to kind of see what the 5-year forecast for Harwich looks like against what they have produced.
You talking about the school district, you mean?
Yes,
Okay.
for Monomoy, yeah.
Mhm.
So that's something that I was going to bring it up Monday night, but I figured Monomoy was sitting there, I thought I would save it for this meeting. But that's something I would like to see.
Yeah.
Because I think one of the things I wanna do is kind of build that bridge, if you will, with helping Monomoy, particularly the Chatham select, Monomoy members, to really understand where Harwich is. Cause I still think they don't quite understand it. So that's a role I wanna play on this committee. And let's see, where were my other notes? I think that was it for now, just those two things, and I'll just jump in.
Okay, so I'll try to put that 5-year forecast up tomorrow, so you can go and,
Okay,
take
that
a
would be
look. and-
great.
and
Can
see.
I just comment? So if you go onto the town website, up in the upper left hand, you'll see those 3 little lines.
Found it? Okay.
And
No, I
it-
know where the line.
so you go right
Possible
here.
to deal with on your phone.
I
Yep,
know,
okay.
Maybe something bigger.
There's these 3 lines on the
Yeah.
upper
I'm
left
on there.
that says menu, so click that. Then you go to government,
Yeah.
then you'll go to boards and committees.
Ah, okay, because I was going to the select
Yeah.
board page.
Yeah,
Yeah.
then
So
you go
that's
down
okay.
and you go to select board.
All right.
And then, as Tony said, you go to annual town meeting, May 4th, 2026. And under here, if you go
Okay.
down at the bottom, you'll see all these documents. Timeline, financials, and supporting documents.
Okay.
All accessible.
All right.
Yeah, I wish I could have
It's
it
a
more
little tricky,
forward-facing. What
right,
I
but
found out
okay.
with our website, we can only have those like 5 buttons across the top, and they're probably more important than I am, so I didn't want to take one of those out. So I know it is a little bit of a finger
Yeah.
journey to try to
That's
find
fine
it, but,
through there.
Should have brought my 32-inch
Well,
phone.
yeah, that,
I'll have to,
it's,
I'll
Yeah,
play
I'll
with
have
it
to look
later.
all right.
Yeah.
If you have trouble, let me know.
Yeah,
We'll do
I'll,
that.
I'll find it. I guess I just want, if somebody says, hey, Tina, where is this? I want to be able to tell them.
Yeah.
In an easy way.
So boards and committees.
Yeah.
Yeah, and once you find it,
Yeah.
you can save that link, right,
All right.
to a favorite or whatever, so next time you just, go on there, click it, and you take it right there instead
Okay.
of
Yeah.
fat fingering around to find it.
although I will say, just listening to Michelle, for the general public to just work their way
Navigate,
Right.
navigate
They'll
through,
give up.
through 5
5, it's
menu-
definitely 5.
Yeah.
menu
About 5
adjustments
entries,
to
yeah,
get down
yeah.
to something
Yeah.
that is
Well-
relatively important is difficult.
So you could probably get them to, well, I see what you're saying, Tony, but there might be a place you could put it.
I think I'll ask, but we were gonna put something else more forward-facing, I think it was some of the wastewater stuff, and again, I don't know what we pay for in terms of the design for our website or the limitation, but I was told that we only get those 5 buttons.
mean, when we
But
hear-
I'll ask.
When we hear it's on the select board, that it's available on the select board page, I think there's an assumption, if I go to the select board initial button under committees, that there'll be a listing of the stuff that's available.
Well, once you get to that
Yes.
page, it's only
Yeah.
one click
Well, no,
after
there isn't
that. but-
much.
You have to scroll down.
You have to go, you
Yeah.
just went
You
through
should go
5
to
menus.
Oh,
the
yes.
finance
Yeah,
committee.
No,
yeah.
I mean
And
just
see
the
if the
list.
204
of
System
items.
Road
Oh.
report
It's
is
on
in
there.
with our stuff, because it was before
Okay.
they did all that.
Okay.
What else?
Anyway, back to Dana. Let's try this
All
again.
right, I'm gonna kind of approach it the same way Peter did and just say what a breath of fresh air it is to have you here,
Temporarily.
present with us now.
Temporarily.
And, I, will hand this out. This is,
An eye test.
I track kind of 3 documents a year, every year, been doing it for 30 years. One of them is the capital plan, and I kind of do it just to make sure that the math all works and that everything is correct. I have one for you, Scott, but I just want to say that that's probably the best capital plan I've seen in a decade, in terms of what was initially presented and what I first looked at from you, department by department, and the information. Even I kind of crunch vehicles together and say they're all vehicles.
Yeah, right.
Equipment, and I don't put separate line. You did all of that. That was really, really good. And it looked like quite a bit of time was spent going through just double checking everything and making sure that the numbers represented as best as we can in this year, what's coming up over the next 5 years.
Right.
So, I put last year, you can see all kinds of different colors and everything like that, because I usually track what numbers go up and what numbers go down and all kinds of other things, but On yours, it was such a fresh approach that I left it just the way it was. Some of the names have changed, but you can kind of go through and find everything there. And you said that right up front, that some of those things would be that way, so comment.
Yeah, there's
number
several
one.
tabs, so, right, so we track the expenditure categories, so we
Yeah,
can see
yeah.
where we're spending money, infrastructure,
Yeah.
vehicles, technology,
Yeah,
whatever.
later I usually add a column to put what article numbers those will come in under.
Okay,
So-
so that's updated all the time, so that's on
Yeah.
the same page that nobody can find. But you found it, it looks like, so anyway, so there's a tab for that, or a page for that, because I think it's a
Yeah.
PDF, not the Excel. And then obviously the big one is the funding, right, the
Yeah.
funding page. So the first year of the capital plan is becomes the capital budget at
And
the
kind
end.
of looking at what we talked about the other night in the joint meeting, if you squeeze those numbers a little bit together and try to eke out a little more annual money, there's, there's over $7 million worth of kind of reoccurring expenses in here, which is over $1 million a year kind of deal. And I know not all of that's gonna squeeze right into the budget, but over time, getting some of the stuff back in that should just be there, because it goes on every year, just makes us healthy, wealthy, and wise, I think, overall.
Yeah, I think so we're doing a couple different things, right? So as you all know, right, we have, it's a financial program, right? So I mean, think of this big umbrella, right? So you got an operating budget, and you got, a component in terms of, free cash, and then you have a component, the capital plan, right? So, I think sometimes we start to look at them as soda straws and not necessarily understand the relational aspects on how it all works together, right? So you don't want to focus too much on one thing and then have these second and third order effects over here. I think as it relates to things in the operating budget, we really I feel that we need to make sure we stay true to the concepts, right? Operating expenses, if you go, look at Department of Local Services and the definition of operating is usually consumed within a year, salaries, right, those kind of things. You start moving capital stuff in there that have, 5-year lives or longer. Even if you buy them every year, each one is an individual asset that's depreciated or whatever. It fits the definition of capital. So we have to be mindful to be careful, because there are things going on in the operating budget, healthcare, retirement, right, salaries, right. We're doing 8 union contracts right now all at the same time. There is the school budget. There is a tremendous amount of pressure, what I call non-discretionary, in the operating budget. And so we just have to find that balance, because if we start putting more stuff in while all this other stuff is going on, I call it the self-licking ice cream cone, right? Eventually it's gone, right? So we're looking at a lot of different things to help relieve some of the stress that's going on in there. So we're looking internally in terms of our own efficiencies. How do we gain efficiencies in terms of how we're spending money? Where can we, cooperate and that kind of thing? We're taking a deeper dive in our revenue forecasting and estimating. Some people, when they talk revenue, they talk budget. I'm like, to me, it's really specific. We estimate revenues, we budget expenses, right? So when you use two different words, people don't get confused about budgets, right? So to me, we estimate revenues, and it's important because estimating means it's not an exact science.
Yeah.
There is some analytical, I bring a lot of analytical aspects to how we estimate revenue. And you heard Pete Perkarski ask the question, in municipal, this is why I take a different approach, right? We've sort of, a lot of times municipal budgeting and what we do, it's rinse and repeat. We just keep doing the same thing. All the folks who were at the meeting the other night saw this. When you look at our estimates for revenue going up like this, and the actuals versus estimates are like this, right? So I am a strong believer in data-driven decision-making, right? Now, just by looking at that, you can't say, oh, gee, we have to do this. You have to drill down and find out why is the data presenting the way that it's presenting. And what data-driven decision-making for me anyways is to help me ask the right question, like why is that happening? Where is the potential disconnect between our estimating process and then, obviously a big difference where we're, coming in 24-25% over. And so how do you balance that, right? And at the same
Without
time,
messing up at the other.
no, well, not messing up, but staying within, the generally accepted best practices, right? Because when they look at free cash and the rating agencies, it talks about budget flexibility, right? So towns that have AAA bond ratings, generally one of the things you'll see in their management comments, right, is strong performance, right? So you're not going over your budget, but you have what they call strong budget flexibility. And what that tells me is that you're able to balance all of those different priorities in very specific ways that yields those type of results. So we're taking a look at that to see what that, what that entails, right? So that I think that's a little bit of a different approach, but one that balances sort of not an exact science, a little bit of gut and some intuition, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't, put some analytics to it. So what I was getting at with what Pete brought up the other night is there's this general practice of, we take the last year's revenue and take 90%. And I'm like,
No.
that might be something, say, okay, you start with that, but then, if that's where you stop, you're not doing any work, right?
Right,
We're
yeah.
paying people a lot of money, really smart people with finance degrees, accounting degrees, right, town administrators. We need to use the brain trust, right, and the brain trust that exists in some of the committees that, review all this stuff, to use some of that brain trust to say, hey, look, how do we keep improving, right, constant improvement on how we do stuff. And what I have, and again, I always try to, I'm a fighter pilot, I'm not particularly bright, so, but I know to get bright people to work with me, right? And the idea guy or whatever, say, okay, this is what I want to do, go tell me how we can make this happen, right? So it's bringing the people together that have the skills, the mindset. We challenge our way of thinking. We don't just rinse and repeat year after year, because if you do, you just get stale. And it's like, oh yeah, that worked out, whatever. Well, you don't make any gains. And so when I mentioned how we did away with free cash and operating budget within one budget cycle, it wasn't like magic science, or we took a deep dive in everything we're doing. Goes, why is this happening like this?
Right, yeah.
And we fixed it all, but we didn't lose anything. As a matter of fact, when I was in Ashland, we actually enhanced what we were doing with the same amount of money. But nobody had looked at it. It just was this rinse and repeat thing. Budgets kept going across, the numbers don't change. Other than calculating salaries, it was just, nobody was really paying a lot of attention to, okay, what's our budgetary performance? You ask for 10,000 every year, you've only used 2 for the last 5. What do you need 10 for? And so you take that from there, and maybe it goes over here because somebody, we want to run another program in rec or COA or whatever it is. And that's how you continue to improve as a community and what you deliver. Because at the end of the day, the operating budget's designed to provide, services and programs to the community in a lot of different ways, in public safety and all of that. So we'll see how it all plays out over the next, 45 days as we're, right now, just so you know, right now, I'm now reviewing all the departmental budgets, right? 27 of them. There's a lot. It's a whole nother discussion, right? Because we're like this.
Yep.
Never seen an $80 million organization that looked like this, right?
Right.
But anyways, so that's taken up a lot of my time when you think about half hour for each of those, and the bigger departments are an hour. You get into police, fire, DPW, golf, right? They're big, right? But anyway, so we're doing that right, going through all the budgets, asking all, I get to become the new guy, so I can ask all the dumb questions, right? Like, why are you doing that? Like, that kind of stuff. So, and everybody's been, and all the department has been incredibly responsive and kind of thinking a little bit outside the box, a little bit different than how they had in the past. And I'll be honest with you, most of them, when I asked it, they like, that's the first time anybody's ever asked me that. Right? So you have a department head that's running a multi-million-dollar department, and they say this is the first time anybody asked my opinion, right?
You got some good people out there.
We do, and so, but this is part of the mentoring, right? Because they're in an area that they're not used to, right? So that's part of what I'm doing, spending time on, is helping mentor them through some of these different financial ways of looking at things, and it's frankly yielding results, right? Sharpen the pencil, whatever you want to look at it. So.
And just my last thing is just to add one more comment about what Peter was talking about in the revolving funds. In the FY25, we had 11 accounts and a combined $0.292 million there. And my biggest pet peeve with that is, besides paying for operational things with that money that have a history now that could be budgeted, it's also a lot of revenue that goes into revolving accounts that never goes into the general fund, where you have a lot more flexibility on how you use it. And when it's not in the general fund, you get something like a rec program where the rec's putting it on and they're getting the $5 per kid or whatever. But, you know, highways mowing the fields, somebody else is doing this and somebody's doing the accounting. None of that money covers any of those kinds of things that the town is spending as a conglomerate to support that program. And just whether we just bring down some of these and bring some of the money into the general fund, or whether we really go crazy and fix them all, that's just a step I think that we need to take over time and work at really going through, like you say, account by account, and
Right.
fixing that one to be right. And we started with Sisson.
Yeah, I think right.
Sisson, and want to move on from there, because I mean, there's 3 accounts that have had one transaction in the last 6 years. One.
Yeah, certainly if you have some, right, and I arguably 11, or I thought it was 14, but you're right, it might be 11. I did get printouts of all of them when I first got here, because again, it's an area that I always look at, right,
Yeah.
for a variety of different reasons. So obviously, if you have some that aren't being used, you know, that's an easy kill, right? Right, you can take that one out, right?
Not that you need more documents, but
yeah.
that's my analysis on it.
So,
that has that.
one of the ththings I would say, though, again, as it relates to, say, rec programs, right, and what they may charge for a particular program, you want to make sure if you took all that revenue and said, hey, it's going to go into the general fund to pay DPW, but there's nothing left to run the program, right? So I hate to say it this way, but I kind of use this analogy that sometimes the general fund can be a black hole if you're not careful, right?
Well, I
And,
was the recreation chairman for 5 years, and know that we back then didn't have a revolving account. And
you struggled to
we
get money to
had
pay for your
50
stuff, right?
kids signed up for a program that was budgeted, and then 60 showed up. That's when we had to pass a hat and do this and
Yeah,
something
right.
ust to make sure that those other 10 kids got a
That's
shirt
right,
or
sure,
a hat.
right.
And that kind of stuff. So we made it all work, and that's how I see a revolving a fund, is to be able to take care of those extra 10 kids when they show up. But it's not to pay for the whole shooting match. A portion of it.
Yeah, so my philosophy always was, again, when, we I'll say, bring in new sources of revenue, that, we are very specific about what we plan to use that money for. Because once it gets into the general fund, like I said, it can become a black hole, and a couple years later, like, where did the revenue go that we were getting from, the rec programs or whatever, because it can easily get siphoned off and you don't even know, because it's like one big number. So, again, it's like anything else. I think we want to take a reset. I think part of that reset is going on right now through myself in terms of getting a good accounting and understanding of all 11 revolving funds. And we're doing the same thing with capital, right? We're going back because, there are open capital articles that have been open for years. Some are completed that, matter of fact, there's one I just looked at. The project is completed. They don't plan on spending any more. It's $60,000 in it, right? So DPW has identified, almost $250,000 that can be freed up. I'm going after articles that have been sitting there for 6-7 years and haven't been initiated. So I'm kind of hard over about if we go to town meeting and we ask them for money for something, the day after town meeting, we ought to be ready to go. Because if 2 or 3 years later, sometimes you can't go because now you don't have enough money because costs go up.
Yeah.
Or maybe it wasn't that important to begin with. So as we look at capital, one of the things I've talked to the department heads about, now again, we're in a shift zone, so I know people get, when all of a sudden they see the capital plan from last year, now they look at it's all new stuff, going, okay. So pop-in items tells me one of two things. Sometimes what we're seeing now is we have new eyes on things that are identifying perhaps deficiencies that need to get addressed, right? So we talked to the capital committee about some of those the other day. But I also tell them, you come in with a short notice thing that you should have seen 2 years ago, where it would have been on, year 3 of the plan, now you're on year 1. Not a good sign, right?
Yeah.
So, but again, it's changing the mindset and the thought process for department heads about responsibility and accountability for not just your budget, but considering and thinking ahead of time about, potential capital projects, so that all of a sudden we don't find out in 1 year we got like $20 million worth of capital. Everybody says they're urgent because the roof's leaking and the windows are falling, whatever it is. So that's a larger discussion, I think, in terms of some of the capital stuff. And I talked to the board about, and we did this in Bourne, we had spent some money, but we had a full facilities master plan created where every building was analyzed top to envelope, HVAC, right, all the criteria. They were all graded, fair, poor, good, excellent, whatever it is. And out of that was timing about when would be the time that some of these projects, need to make sure that they're getting completed through the capital plan. So that's a big effort. It's not something we can do organically. We have a one-person facility shop, which again is something that probably needs to get looked at some point. But arguably our facilities are our most expensive asset, right?
Definitely.
And we owe it to the taxpayers to get the full, complete, useful life out of every building before we go and ask them for a new one. Because if they drive around and see buildings falling down, and then we say, hey, we'd really like to build a new, pick your poison, a new library, a new school, a new whatever, and they look and we're not taking care of the ones that they've already given us
Why
a
should
lot
we
of
give you
money,
a new one?
Yeah.
why should we give you a new one?
The
So
town of
maintenance,
Rentham used to approach it that way.
Yeah.
They used to bring out their old tired equipment and say, just before town meeting, say, we need to fix and replace some of this stuff, and people would say, if you're gonna turn it into junk, why should I pay for
Right.
new ones and stuff? And so the next year, they brought out all the new ones, and that year, everything passed. Before that, it was always going down.
yeah, and I don't know if this number still, I looked at when I first, but there was, I was gonna say 5 million, but multi-million in open articles. Now, some stuff may be ongoing or whatever, but that's a lot of money in open articles.
Yeah.
It's a very
Um,
long list.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah,
like-
but and then it
And there
goes
used to be
to,
regular town meetings where we would have the turn back at the end of the meeting and
well,
turn
that's what we're
back
gonna,
all those
hoping to do
items.
this time, is to do
Yeah.
that and repurpose it, right? To help
Yeah.
fund
Yeah.
other future,
Right.
or not future, but
Sometimes you can do it
some of
right
the-
with the wording.
right with the, or just change the use of it.
Yeah.
One of the ones I met on yesterday with the 60, that's exactly what we're gonna try to do.
We're
and,
in.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, you gotta, I mean, again, we're going to ask for more money, but we have this money sitting over here that they've already
Right.
allocated that nobody's spending.
Yeah.
And we need to, and that was part of the board's, general policy guidance, and it was mine too, for all the department heads to, explain any open articles, particularly ones that are, I'll say, latent or getting stale at, 2018, 2019, right? So you got a few of those. So, now that also goes, I think, one of the things, because we do a lot, I mean, in the 2 times I worked, this is the most capital I've ever seen on plans, right? So, I mean, we've been, for a long time, been able to fund a lot of stuff. But what that's identified to me is, we need procurement help, right? So I have 2 people right now going through MCPPO training, right? Mass, Certified Public Purchasing Official certification, right? That, I don't know why this happened, but to be doing 100% of that in the town administrator's office, not if I was ever here. Right, now you're still the chief procurement officer, right, to sign off on all this stuff, right? Then that, you have that from the state, right?
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean you have to do all the work, but you're the final gatekeeper when stuff's coming through to make sure it, complies with, whether it's 30B or 149 or, whatever, 115, I think is the other one. So, but again, that is part of, I think, why, when you look at the project list that Megan used to put together, right, she just updated it for us, but a lot of these see not initiated, and so we gotta find out why that is. Is it at the department level, because they're not doing the specs and stuff to go with it? Well, that's on them. If it's because they have that, but we can't, find the white space on the calendar to initiate it through the procurement process. So again, you gotta dig down to find the root
Yeah,
cause of
We
why
have our
things are
guesses,
happening.
but
Yes. So,
still being polite.
yeah, that's okay.
Okay.
That's it for me. Thank you.
You have
Sure,
questions?
absolutely,
No.
Dana.
Okay, I
Okay.
do not have
You already
questions.
got your
Yeah.
questions.
Yeah.
Mark?
Yeah, okay, so I'm new, by the way, so I.
Excellent, me
I
too.
may say something.
Fresh out of the,
Me
he's
too.
fresher than you are.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, and, you know, city, town government's new to me. But one thing that I guess I was a little surprised by, if I understand this correctly, is we get a annual audited financial statements, but I don't feel like we're getting much information in between. And I'm wondering if down in your area, there's a lot of reporting being done that we don't see. And that would be helpful for this committee to see.
Yeah, I think, so the select board monthly gets a report, right, that basically you can look at, has every department, everything, and shows, you know, what their budget amount, where they are. I look at that, right, because I look at what I call the burn rate, right? If I open it up and we're in month 4 and I see somebody's 80% on a line item,
Yeah.
I'm gonna ask some questions like, what's your plan? And, you know, that kind of thing, right?
Sure.
So most of the reporting is stuff like that. I mean, we're not doing any, like, constant audits, or if that's what,
No, I'm just, and maybe this is too detailed for us at this committee level, but I'm just thinking there's, I'm thinking more, I work for Target Corporation,
Mhm.
where you get a monthly or quarterly year-to-date, what's going on, variances to budget, and then if there is variance, explanation of what is going on there. Whether that might be helpful at a higher level, maybe not as detailed as maybe what you get, but.
yeah, so those reports will have that in there, right? You can go through and by line item, you can see the, variant, I say variance, you can see the use rate. Obviously, if it's over 100%, there's a variance there, right? That would jump out at you. For me, again, I only have 90 days left, so, but one of the things that I've always done is, a quarterly review for the select board about, how is the budget
Okay.
going? So we gave one in, I think it was it might have been late September, because I think this one's driven by the charter for some reason. But the title of it was, current, it was like current year financial assessment, which didn't really make sense to me, the title of it. But that's essentially what it is. We basically talked to the board about, here's what we're seeing with, because we hadn't even, I don't think we even closed the books for August yet. So, because of some of the latency there, to me, like when you hit the 6-month point,
Sure.
right, you should be able to go back and at least cover a quarter plus worth of, how things look and how the revenue, now our revenues don't come in like you might see in a private sector where they're lineal to some degree. Ours go like this, right? So taxes only come in quarterly, right?
Sure.
So, if you're in the middle
Meat
of when
stickers.
the last one came and the next one, so you have some gaps there. It's not linear. So, and certain types of receipts come in at certain times, like excise tax comes in the spring, right?
Sure.
So we're, budgeting $1.5 million in excise tax. But, we don't find out until late in the year how we're doing.
What, yeah, go ahead, Scott, yeah.
Go ahead, Scott.
Scott, one.
Just to follow up on that, I mean, thinking about the finance committee's role, one of the important roles is evaluating the budget proposal in the next couple of months. The sort of mid-year budget actuals reporting that would be, for instance, 6 months actuals in the current fiscal year compared to last year at the same time through 6 months. And you can do kind of an extrapolation that takes into account the seasonality of each revenue or expense line in the context of evaluating the proposal for fiscal 27. It would be important for us to see if, we may only have 25% of a revenue item in or 40%. It's definitely not linear. But if we've got 40% of the budget in so far this year, but last year we had 60% of the actual in already, that's a red flag. And so that sort of a comparison, whether it's 5 months actuals or 6 months actual, I think that would be a really important thing for the finance committee to see. More important than something in July or August just a monthly sort of, update. It would be focused on how it would help evaluate the future year budget proposal.
Yeah,
Yep.
Yes.
I agree.
I agree.
Yeah, so I mean, then I was wondering if there, besides sort of the financial accounting numbers, are there other metrics downstairs that, or upstairs here, that people are looking at that would potentially be helpful for us to see too? And I'm thinking of like on the revenue side, I think last time we were talking about how many homesteads there are and how that's moved over time. Certain things that are not dollars necessarily, but things that create dollars.
Yeah, I don't know about that particular scenario, but I think at some point it becomes, how many hours are in the day and whether you, what the return on investment is, right? I think generally speaking, I mean, maybe a little different than, again, the private sector is, our stuff is pretty consistent, in terms of what we look at to sort of gauge our, performance. Sometimes we'll do a study if there's something we want to, try to, identify perhaps. We may look at, one of the things I think folks have talked about is, and Scott brought it up, understanding the impact on the taxpayer of certain decisions.
Yeah.
So when I was in Ashland, one of our initiatives was called Visual Budget. And so all this data got loaded into this thing called Visual Budget, right? And you could go in and you can plug in your property tax, right? So if you say I pay $6,000 a year in property tax, and then you could select and you could find out how much of your dollars were going to fund the police and the fire and the capital plan and pick snow and ice, right? And it really was an eye opener for people because they say, man, my taxes are $5,000 and $50 goes to snow and ice, and my roads are plowed every day and all that. And you go, wow, that's a good value for my dollar, right? And then you hit on the school one and you have a heart attack. No, no, we love the schools.
We
love the
actually
schools.
bought that software package at one point in time, but nobody maintained it. You remember that?
Yeah, we do.
Yeah,
have
no,
that, yeah.
well, it's like, so that's where people you have to keep up with it, right?
Yeah.
You're not talking open checkbook. It's two different.
No, not open checkbook.
Okay.
Well, and I, it's, my thought is not to find things that haven't been watched. It's things that maybe you're seeing in reporting that create expenses or revenue that are not the actual dollars, but are metrics that you are looking at right now.
Yeah, I guess I would say in my 90 days, I probably won't get to that one. But those are things, when you get your permanent administrator, right? So
Yeah.
I'm all about, and we actually, again, another one of these bright ideas, right? So folks that are into, performance management, right?
Right.
When I was in Ashland, it was called AshStat, right? And so we started looking at all kinds of metrics, right, inside of departments, right, to look at the data to see, what it was telling us. And again, different departments, so public safety, right, the bigger departments and those kind of things. So with performance management, you can sort of set some of that up. It is, I'll say, very time consuming and staff consuming. Sometimes they I'll say fail because on any given day, we're trying to fit 12 hours worth of work in 8 hours. So
Yeah, I get that.
what I would suggest, though, if you have something you think, I think this may have some value, I would say we're probably not doing that type of work right now internally, but if it's something we think we can make hay with, there's nothing to say we can't at least take a look at it and
Sure.
see what it would.
And I suggested at earlier meeting that if it's something new that someone has to dig into a database, maybe we could get summer interns to set something up or
Right.
something like that.
You could always go down
And I can, yeah, sort of.
There you go.
there. The best example is the schools, I
Yeah.
think, always looking for how many kids are born each year. and
Yeah,
that
exactly.
kind of
Things like
stuff.
that,
They
yeah.
know that 5 years from
Yeah,
now,
they
that's
do.
gonna
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
start to change
Unless
their
they
life
move.
and stuff, and
Yeah.
All right, Dan.
Oh, yes.
Your turn.
We woke
Your
her up.
opportunity.
Remember, I go to bed at 7 o'clock. 2 minutes.
you got 3 more minutes, don't
Yeah,
worry.
1 minute.
Let me preface my question by saying that my background is accounting and auditing.
Mine's in mathematics, so we're not even, you're way smarter
No
than
way.
me. Go ahead.
I was the audit director for the state education department. One of the things that my audit teams used to do is to, when they go into a school district, they would assess to what extent the district assesses the adequacy of their internal controls.
Mhm.
Is that something that you conduct, you determine as part of your?
So the audit does look at internal controls, right? So that's in the report, and that's what I mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, is I'll have my items, right, that I want them specifically to look at, where they're, I'll say that, some would say they may have a high potential, right, for, whatever.
Risk.
Fraud, yeah, risk, right? So anytime, right, we take cash at the beach, we take cash at the transfer
exactly.
station, right?
Yep.
Cash it's on my list every year, every audit said I need you to look
Yeah.
and understand how cash moves around, what controls do we have around it to make sure that everything is copacetic. And then if there are other areas that I want them to spot check for internal controls, and also separation of duties, right, is another one. So when you have
This
a
guy talks my language.
yeah, right, I've been around a long time. But also to make sure we have separation of duties, especially the folks that are in the bank accounts and all that kind of stuff, right, is a big deal. So I always ask them to analyze our separation of controls so that, one person may be doing this and there's a check and balance on the other end. However, that's, designed to make sure the proper controls are there in separation of duties for, certain aspects of what we do, so.
Music to my ears.
There you go.
We don't have a music department other than the schools.
It's a good one.
It is, Rose Richards.
Okay, any follow-ups anybody want to have?
You haven't had a turn?
Yes.
I haven't had a turn. Well, I think a lot got actually asked and out. So I know the only thing that I'd comment on is, again, going to that Monday meeting, which I thought was, the presentation was very good. I expressed appreciation then. I express it again. There was the package was very good. It was also sent to us in advance, which was wonderful. And the attitude by everyone was also continues to be very, very positive. I think, interestingly, just about everybody that asked anything all went back to what I thought was confusing until I looked at it more, the local receipts bar chart.
Yeah.
I'm not even a bar chart person, but
Right.
once you figure out that chart and apply it to even more than local receipts, it really tells quite a story and the importance of which to be brought to the preparation of the budget in terms of the various effects of why actuals are much bigger than that year's budget, but the next year's budget is still whatever it is, and not some other number. And
Right.
it just begs exactly the kind of questions that I think we hope are being asked in putting together the current year budget.
Yeah, and just, for myself and certainly for Jen too, will be, doing together a majority of that work is, you all have we don't have the corporate knowledge, right? So one of the difficulties, I come in and I'm looking at the budget and whatever, and, trying to understand, how it was put together, and the different things that were in someone else's mind as they put all that together. And, we go into the computer and we got all these files, right? But as you would imagine, every individual, they have their own naming convention or whatever that makes sense to them may not make sense to me. So it takes a lot more work, and we've accelerated things, right? So our plan right now, I think, one of your things was to talk about the budget timeline, but right now we're planning to present the budget on the 5th of January, which is like a month and a half before they used to get it. I don't know. But doing that earlier, right, so that we have the time to discuss and collaborate and answer questions and whatever, because once we get into the rest of the timeline, you get into probably like March and April, we need to be like fine tuning in March and April, not, if we start having big swings in trying to finalize the budget, you run the risk of
Whole
making a
thing
mistake,
falls out,
right? And I'll say more or less stumbling into town meeting with something that you may not have full confidence in, and people ask smart questions and whatever, and, you know, I told the staff, you know, town meetings are Super Bowl, right? It's kind of funny, when I was in Bourne, right, I'm like, hey, we're gonna meet over the community center, buying pizza, we're gonna chair fly town meeting, they're like, what the heck is that? I'm like, we're gonna go through the whole thing, we're gonna ask and answer every question before it ever gets asked, and if you have an article on there, you better be ready to stand up and speak to it, you know, intelligently, knowledgeably, and why it's important, and all of that, because if we trip up there, well, they're gonna be like, what else is wrong, right? What else isn't right, you know? And so, I think that breeds success, right? When we hit town meeting floor, that we have everything asked and answered ahead of time as best that we can. And if we get a stump the dummy question, I'll take the mic, right? So.
No, but we always get somebody that asks a question and everybody just starts looking around and it's like.
Yeah.
They
And sometimes you
didn't- it
just don't
wasn't-
know. I mean,
Yeah.
and you don't wanna shoot
Sometimes
for,
it's just so.
and you don't wanna
It's
shoot from the
okay to
hip.
say we don't know.
Yeah, you don't
Yeah.
wanna shoot from the hip, because again, that breeds,
Yep.
can breed distrust a little bit, right? But
Don't make it up.
there's nothing to say, I'm not sure, and even Jen did it, right? She said, I'm not 100% sure, can I get back to you? So-
Right,
Yeah.
right, and that's,
She was good
And
at
that's the right answer.
that's a hard night to get back to people, but,
Yeah, yeah, right, I know. All right.
Just extend town meeting an extra night to get the answers.
Thank
Thank you
you.
very
the
much.
longest was.
No,
2
absolutely.
weeks.
So I think right now, I think we're still talking about it, but I think sometime in mid-December, we'll be doing the capital plan, which I think is a joint meeting,
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah.
All right, so
Yeah.
we talked a little bit about the date, so I think it might be, I think we're planning on taking the final votes on, I think on the 10th.
Yes.
So I'm not sure we'd be ready for that following Monday, but it may be the Monday after that, so. I wanted to do it on the 29th.
Eggnog for everybody.
Oh, yeah, I wanted to do it on the 29th, but,
There you go.
yeah, the later the better, gives us more time.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, and everybody's, I know for this committee, I know the select, but he's anxious, right? They wanna see it. I'm like, you don't wanna see it before it's ready, because it's gonna create more work if it's not ready, right? So we're gonna get questions that we still haven't, ourselves, dug into. So, we'll have, that capital plan, I'm on version 11 of that plan, right? As we get more data, I just met with the schools last week, so we plugged in the numbers for the elementary school projects, right? Now, those get funded through the assessment, absent the ones that require, borrowing where it goes to town meeting and all that. So now those have been laid in to the capital plan, since we have 100% responsibility for the projects for our own elementary school.
Yeah.
So those are laid in now, and, just in discussions with the capital committee the other day, we had some minor movement just in that discussion. That's what that's for. So we're not in a vacuum. It's easy when you're in a vacuum, you can talk yourself into anything, but we have, smart folks asking questions, going through it, and we'll,
There was
we'll
one
get
year,
there.
this body got the capital plan 1 week before it went to print in the warrant.
Okay.
It was an ugly year that year.
If I was a TA, I'd be having a stroke if that happened, but.
Tony,
anyways.
we appreciate you coming.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
thank you.
absolutely.
Yeah.
My pleasure. Like I say, if anything, comes up, either individually or through Bob, let me know. If we can do it, we will. It's a little, with the financing right now, be patient with us, because, they're literally here one day a week.
Yeah, yeah,
So
no, we know.
we're using a contractor. I hope to get that thing filled. And
Okay.
we need stability.
When are we gonna
Stability
hear in
is the
free
key.
cash? When are we gonna hear in free cash?
Oh, so free cash, so how, I don't know if anybody heard when I
Sorry,
talked to the
keep-
board, so we closed we closed the books probably earlier than we ever have, in September. Submitted our free cash shortly thereafter. We had to fix a couple of things, and again, this is part of, when you have transitions, right, you find little things in the general ledger you gotta fix, but anyways, but we got it in what I will call the gold standard of DOR in terms of when you get it in. They found out actually this year that they were way down on communities that met that early, what I'll call the early gate. But anyways, notwithstanding that, when are we gonna get it? So we kind of are in third tier. So first tier for them when they review free cash certifications are any towns that are having fall town meetings. because typically I'm a big fan of fall town meetings as a matter of practice. It just helps divide things up, but a lot of towns do their capital stuff in the fall, right, which gives them, time to get things going and lined up, so when the new fiscal year, it's boom, they're ready to go. But anyway, so they're number one, so they get first tier. Second tier are any towns that have submitted for the tax recap process, and then we're third. We just spoke to them yesterday, so it's a fine thing about how many times you want to call them, because you don't want to,
Yeah.
Now, thankfully, this one said, call me anytime without, I think they're getting ready to start looking at ours. But we're okay. I mean, if we get it in the next couple of weeks or whatever,
We're fine.
that's not, that's not bad, right? I mean, last year was almost February, right, late January?
Yeah. Yep.
So hopefully that doesn't happen,
Yep.
we're in good, we submitted when we did, now we're sort of at their mercy a little
Yeah.
bit. So they'll start to review the file, and then if they have questions, then they'll call and say, we got a question, and you gotta answer questions. So we don't know whether they're gonna have questions or not, but we are in her queue, we've been assigned to a certifier, for lack of a better word, so, yeah. So now we're like this.
Okay.
If we're eating turkey and know the number, it's a great day.
Yeah. I mean, we know what we submitted for, so again, I don't know, how often, those numbers can move a little bit sometimes, but, we'll be sitting with a decent number, so. Okay.
Thank you.
And don't forget, we do spend, free cash on things other than capital, so.
Okay.
Look, don't step in your phone, Tony.
Not mine. All right, thank you. All right, thank you very much, appreciate
Yep.
what you guys do.
Have a good night.
And
Thank
ladies.
you. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
So is free cash state cash that comes back to us, or what does that mean, free cash?
It's not free and it's not cash.
Surplus is how, yeah.
Dana, do you
Yeah,
want to?
tell me what.
Wanna do a quickie on free
It's
cash?
made up
The
of,
accounting
it's
term-
made up of 6 different buckets. The 2 biggest buckets are returns from departments that have money left over.
Oh,
And,
for our
That
town.
was 2.2 million, something like
Okay.
that. And then the second biggest bucket is the gap between estimated receipts and actual receipts. Like, was 1 million dollars, so there's over $3 million of it right there. The other 4 buckets are much smaller kinds of things. It's
That one's
interest
growth,
on,
Growth.
But when you said the
No, it's-
three,
So it's internal.
it's all internal.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
internal to the town.
right. It's
that-
what we estimate our
lower
receipts and then
expenses
what
and
the
higher
actuals
revenue.
end up
Okay.
being.
Then we
Yeah.
budget.
And there,
Yeah.
but there's 3 levels to it or something, he was saying, I thought he was saying something.
There are just different,
Three different-
different
No,
calculations. The sheet
Oh,
that has to
yeah.
get submitted
Okay.
has different components to the calculation.
Right.
Got it.
The accounting term is unexpended fund balance.
Yeah,
Yes.
That's
well,
what
that's a
it
better
is.
term.
There you go.
There you go.
There you
Yeah,
go.
that's good.
All right, Mr. Chairman, what's next?
Okay.
Let's burn through this.
Yes, we're trying to approve the minutes for October 9th and October 16th.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, let's vote both of them at the same time. We've got a motion on both of them at the same time. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed, any abstentions? Okay,
So can I make one comment?
you can.
I did notice that the selectmen have given up on taking
Yeah.
individual votes.
Right, yeah.
Does that mean we don't have to do it either? And we used to go around and count
I
votes.
mean, that was
yeah.
pretty clear enough, I think.
Technically, if you've got somebody remote, you should, technically,
I think that eye was clear enough that
Yeah.
even that
yeah.
one
Yeah.
picked it
But
up,
I
so.
think,
Good eye.
yeah. Yeah.
All right,
We did
next.
get an aye from the remote vote, and
Yes.
yes, I counted 7 hands up
Yes.
for,
Good.
around the table.
As long as Judy gets it right, Judy.
As long as
Thank you,
Judy gets it
Judy.
right, Judy.
Judith.
Judah.
Judith. Judy with an I. Okay, I wanna pass something out, which is not necessarily
You're gonna
on
pass
here,
out?
but, yeah,
Oh,
I
I'm
do.
glad you're doing this.
This is my current version of the contact list with the new the new emails.
Ooh.
Is there hopefully everybody has their email? Damn.
Oh, I got it.
Well, because we need to, I sent a couple of things to everybody, both ways. It's
I know.
It is a pain to do that.
Mhm.
I want to make sure that I can in fact send emails to everyone using their Harwich Town emails. But that's what are on here anyway. This also has phone numbers, and it has the information, to my knowledge, that I got back from almost everyone on anticipated time
Oh.
away.
There you go.
If you have additions to that you can provide me, I'd appreciate it, because at some point, we're going to start worrying about, or thinking about whether or not we need additional meetings, when they would be, who's around to attend. As we know, we have to have at least 5 of us here physically to have a.
So why are some people in bold and some people not?
Mine is in bold.
Because some of them had, some email addresses automatically turn into a live link, and for some
Oh.
reason, some don't.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And when they turn live, they get a color.
You have to return after that.
You have to do what?
At least Dana will be back in time for town
Blue on
meeting.
your,
Yes, I will be back in time for town.
Anyway, we're not studying it tonight, take it with you.
Good, thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
Next.
But I wanted to get it done, and again,
Do
please.
you know any fourth graders that can help you with this, getting signed in and stuff?
Fourth graders.
So do I have to call Emily and say, what do I have to tell her?
Just go into Emily's office, knock on the window, and they'll give you all the paperwork, you sign a little thing, and you take it with you, and you just
Yeah,
go through it, and you're in.
or if you take
Bring
your
that, she'll
iPad,
do it
she
for
will
you.
help you do it.
Okay.
Take your
Yes.
phone with you.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the easiest thing.
Yeah,
But
she's
she-
really good.
yeah.
She does, there is a password that doesn't get given out other than physically delivered to you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Then you
the-
immediately change it.
The email
Yeah,
address
yeah.
is one thing.
It's a
but the
long,
password-
ugly password.
First I've heard of it.
Yeah,
There's a security thing.
Welcome to finance.
Yeah,
but take your iPad, she'll help you with it.
Well, I'll just be in Florida, I'll
Set
still be
you all up.
participating remotely.
Feed, yes.
so from now on, we should just, if we're communicating with each other, only use the new approach, right? Because the new,
Well,
or what is,
if you're communicating with me directly, you can do either or both,
okay,
whichever. But I don't want to be, we and I don't want to be sending something to
Okay.
everyone until I know
oh,
everyone
I see, okay.
has their email. So even though I've done it, I have to do both to assure that it's actually been
There's
distributed.
12 people on this
Question.
list.
Yeah,
What is your preference in terms of notification that you can't make a meeting? Do you want a text? Do you prefer email? What was your preference, or you don't care?
email.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm old fashioned.
I took all my, I had a folder within my emails of all my finance committee stuff. I took all those and forwarded them to my new email address.
Yeah,
There's
that was
hundreds
what
of
was
them.
suggested actually
And I did
at the,
that,
you know, at the
and,
meeting was if you.
I have everything there now,
and-
so
And then if you delete it all out, you'd no longer,
have it at home, yeah.
yeah, well, you no longer have the same liability for somebody to grab your email, your personal email and go through it. Anyway, okay. The next item was feedback from members who attended the municipal finance state meeting. That includes, I need authorization to approve these I have 3 invoices.
Yeah. You should make a I was there, so you should.
What am I making a motion?
Make a motion to approve us going to that
To
meeting.
have the chair,
It's 65.
authorize the chair to
To sign
approve
the-
3 invoices for
Yeah.
$65 each.
So moved.
Second?
I'll second
No,
it, yeah.
second.
You'll second.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Michelle
I
was at the
seconded.
meeting.
I didn't submit a bill, but I was at the meeting.
Judy,
Yeah.
Michelle seconded.
Did you submit yours?
No,
Okay.
No, submit yours, or
Any-
is that
I never
covered
have, so
over
why
there?
should I start
Any
now?
discussion on that? All in favor of authorizing me
Aye.
to
Aye.
sign
Aye.
these
Aye,
invoices?
Dan, say aye.
Aye.
Aye,
I
okay.
on remote, Scott on remote.
Um,
then if
aside for
you,
the moment.
I can drop those
Okay.
tomorrow if you want to,
That's- I'm
or
gonna
you.
sign them and give them back to you. That's
Okay,
exactly
yep,
right.
I'll drop those tomorrow.
Okay, do we have, does anyone want to, in fact, make feedback comments to the group on what they learned from the meeting?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, Mark, go to
Anyhow,
it.
I thought, I really enjoyed one of the presentations at this meeting, the state, or the municipal finance state meeting, I guess it was called.
Association of Town Finance
Whatever.
Committees, yes, state board.
Okay, so there was a town administrator that talked about how he does reporting that I really thought was good. And one of the things he said was, you know, don't reinvent the wheel. There are some best practices that you can steal or plagiarize from, you know, from other towns.
That follow that same program.
If I, yeah, and I felt there were a lot of good things in what this guy presented because he had won the best reporting award. And so to me it said, because I was trying to start thinking about what I'd like to see around reporting. I'm thinking, it's already been figured out.
That's true.
So I think it does pay to maybe find out what other towns are doing at times. Maybe not for us, but there's some administration, their own reporting. But I did find that presentation really good. I don't know, I think, were we all there?
No, I wasn't there I saw that presentation last year.
Oh, you did, with
And
the same
under
person?
Under last year's administrative era, this town wasn't ready to approach something like that. The standard that they use is very, very good, and things get posted right on websites right away and all that kind of stuff. And I think that if we get into a new finance director, that's a direction we as a committee could push for and actually make that our standard as well. And it's just, like you say, the best practices that a good number of towns now are using to just keep their citizens informed as to how their town is functioning and how the finances work and all
Right,
that
and
stuff.
what this guy presented was very concise, very readable to the layman, very organized, not, you know.
Do you have a
I
copy
think
of
he
it?
said like 20 pages, you can get
Do you have a
everything you
copy
need
of
to
it?
say.
We don't have a
Well-
copy,
Did
but
you
we
get a
have a
copy?
link.
I'll send
We
you
have a
the,
link
I'll,
to it.
I'll
Yeah,
forward
there was a
that.
link.
Yeah.
All right, so send us the link, we'll all study it, we'll talk about it
Yeah.
next meeting.
GFOA is the,
Yeah,
Government Finance Officers
yeah. We
Association.
want to win an award. That's what we're after.
right.
Yeah.
If you
That
can
would
win
be
the
good.
award, you've got a decent
Yeah.
town. out
Yeah.
there.
GFOA, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
First, we want a finance director.
Yeah, once
first we
we
need
have a
that.
staff.
right, yeah. It just, I mean, like I said, I was thrilled the same way last year as you were
Yeah.
this year.
Yeah,
I just knew that when I went back home to my hometown, that wasn't something I was gonna be able to
Too
help
soon.
muscle through.
Yeah, I think it was the same guy, right? Last
Yeah,
year?
yeah.
Yeah.
He was good.
but Brewster was on that list he gave recommended reports, and Brewster,
Brewster
I'm
was
like,
on
oh,
the
we gotta
list?
go dig up and look
Yeah.
at Brewster's.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
I
it
think
was
he did say that.
designed for town meeting, it was designed for somebody
Right.
who could read, like if I wanted to know this, okay, I'm going to page 81, it was really like a
Yeah,
layman
those are-
could read
yeah,
it and
Table of
understand it.
contents, he was,
Yeah,
said it was very
we were
important.
blown away, we were in the
Yeah, I
front
was
row
blown
going, oh
away.
my gosh, like, yeah.
If I
it
get a
was-
chance, I'll run over
Yeah.
there and grab a couple Brewster Town
Yeah.
reports, maybe we can.
Yeah.
And one of the things it had was a sort of a report card on one page that I thought it was color coded to say the important
Yeah,
things, metrics, and with, saying what still needs some work.
yes, and how they
what
evaluate
is
them.
in good
Yeah.
shape.
yeah.
I
and
thought
they give
that
you
was
a
really good,
report.
all on one page.
Yeah, they give you a report and tell you what you did well, what you can improve on, so the next budget, you follow, yeah, it's like a report
Certainly
card.
something to strive for.
Oh, yeah, we were
Mhm.
like, yeah, we're gonna strive. What I was gonna add, let me look at my
Yeah.
notes here, because this was from a different workshop. And again, I'm thinking of schools, because it's a huge part of our budget.
Really?
And, I know it's a surprise. But forming, like, they suggested having an annual stakeholders meeting, which I think Monomoy has tried to do, just to have this meeting. Like, and I think FinCom should be there, so the TA, the TM from Chatham, all the players, so there is this understanding of what's happening. I know from the Monomoy side that's happening, but I don't think FinCom was ever at the table. Just going through the budget, just so like when I come and report, I can say, hey, I've just come from this meeting, like I do have a couple of things to report, but,
We
just
do
kinda
make it,
getting ahead of
we do
it.
make it a practice of,
Yeah.
we invite the superintendents in just to talk to us,
right,
not talking to them,
right.
but just to us, and I'm more than happy to do that.
Right, yeah. I think this was, the recommendation from some places that did it well. They had a committee, they called it like a stakeholders meeting is what they called it. And I just thought it was good, coming from the school side. How can we make this better? How can we not be surprised? That kind of thing. So you kind of know, like, what's happening. I mean, I got a call today, because they've got, Monomoy has their budget workshop tonight, and I got a call today, and this is probably gonna affect the town. Health insurance is, so anyway, so there are some things, again, just staying ahead of the curve. And I did wanna say, because Tony mentioned January 5th as a budget draft, I know Monomoy has their budget draft mid-January. So the school, like, they've got the draft mid-January, so I think it's good when Tony said January 5th, that it's matching up. The timeline is matching up. Because the school committee will vote on their draft budget mid-February, because they have to file it in the libraries, and then they'll have the final vote mid-February. So anyway, I think as much as we can match their timelines with our timelines, that might solve some of this last-minute stuff that's been happening with Monomoy. Can you take out this or that or that? Like, I know Monomoy has asked for, from the get-go, which I think Don is kind of giving them this year, like, what is it they're wanting to see? Give us something so that we can, as we're putting our budget together, we can be thinking about yours, rather than, let us just give it and then we'll figure it out. So just some things, anyway, this was from another workshop, I can't remember if you were.
Yeah,
in
you
that
were,
one.
yeah.
But it was Arlington, so they were talking about the city budget and the school budget. Now, they've got
Yeah,
their.
I think I went to that.
Yeah,
maybe.
our town, yeah.
And certainly a different problem with the region.
Yeah, it's different from a region, you're exactly right. There are some
In
different
terms of,
things,
All
yeah.
right, what's next, Mr. Chairman?
Pardon?
Yeah,
What's next?
What's next?
I was gonna just
any
make one
other
comment on the
comments?
meeting. There was 108 people there, and Howard had 4 of them, which was a good showing for us. It was good to see some people that were brand new into it, and I know you've been to this meeting before.
I wanted to go this
Scott
year.
was there. It was just good to see our presence there. And the first order of business was to reelect me to another term, so they did that.
Congratulations, I think.
yeah.
So,
Is it 2-year term?
no, it's every year.
Every year.
So.
Congratulations.
Okay.
Congratulations.
Did you guys vote for him?
We did. We were
And they
very
went-
proud.
Oh, they did.
We were like, yay, that's one of our people.
The next item had to do with wastewater, and this specifically relates to some question, interest, whatever that Scott had brought up. And so I will ask Scott to comment on the topic that you emailed me on.
Okay, thank you. So, one of my interests is environmental protection, conditions of freshwater bodies, rivers. I'm on the new Harwich Ponds Coalition, which focuses on ponds, but also cares about estuaries and such. And through that, I started reading the Harwich Comprehensive Wastewater Management Plan, which was finalized in spring of 2016. And reading through, it's a 600-page document. I haven't read the whole thing, but I got through about 350 pages. And around that point, I read about a requirement of that plan. This is a plan that Massachusetts approved, and the importance of the plan is that it allowed us to avoid a really draconian approach to the control of nitrogen going into Nantucket Sound, basically, which would have required every single resident to install an innovative, alternative, and I would say very expensive septic system. That was the stick that Massachusetts DEP used to compel all of Cape Cod's towns to create a wastewater management plan. And one of the requirements of this plan, or one of the promises of this plan, was to establish what was called a wastewater technical review committee. And that committee was supposed to meet every quarter. It was supposed to review the current plan of sewering and other methods of reducing our flow of pollution into Nantucket Sound. Peter, I looked at a bunch of archived meeting minutes, and I saw that a committee with a different name, but the same purpose, I believe, Wastewater Implementation Committee was one of the names it used, actually did exist from 2016 until around 2019 is what I could find. Maybe it lasted longer. And then it kind of faded away. But from the Finance Committee perspective, I thought it was important to kind of resurrect that committee, because that would be a place in which the long-range plan, including the 20 or 30 years of sewering that is now, I think, the default approach to getting nitrogen out of Nantucket Sound, can be monitored, reviewed. Alternatives as they evolve could be considered that might be less expensive, and I think that there is actually a lot of development that could either augment or replace some of the 8 phases of sewering that is now the comprehensive wastewater management plan of Harwich, dated 2016. So I wanted to bring that up in finance because it has huge financial implications. You know, Tony's budget message had a statement about $500+ million of investment in sewering. I have no idea what that debt service would be and what the impact on taxpayers would be. But if there are, and I think there are, less expensive methods to remove the same amount of nitrogen from our wastewater stream, Finance Committee has a very intense interest in exploring those alternatives. And I believe Finance had either a liaison or some kind of representative on that wastewater implementation committee. And I think that we should try and get that resurrected. I don't know what the process for doing that would be, whether it's some sort of a message from Finance to the select board, asking them to reestablish the committee. I don't know what the composition exactly was. I guess I could figure it out if I looked at the archives more closely. But I think that because very, very soon, Harwich needs to refresh that comprehensive wastewater management plan, and also because we're, I think, a few years out from a new commitment to another phase of sewering, maybe 3 or 4 years before we get to the next phase, that this is a really good time window of opportunity to reevaluate that default sewering plan and evaluate other alternatives that could achieve the same objectives that Massachusetts requires us to achieve. And those objectives are actually quite explicit. They're measured in terms of kilograms per year of nitrogen that we need to remove from our flow into the ocean. And each of the alternatives can be quantified. The sewer phases are also being quantified. And we could do a cost-benefit analysis. We could have this committee do that kind of analysis to see if there are more cost-effective ways of achieving that sort of nitrogen reduction. that is Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection's measure of our success.
So let me just say
So I don't
this.
know.
Now, let me just say this, because I think I was actually the chairman for a good part of that period of time. We had folks that were worried about counting turtles and eggs in the woods and all kinds of stuff. What really happened was the selectmen decided they wanted to change engineering firms. You remember that? So when that happened, that committee went away. So that comprehensive plan was done by, who were the guys that were doing our stuff before?
I forget who it was, yeah.
They're doing almost everybody else's, but then we decided to change because somebody got a burp or a saddle or whatever. And so now we have this other outfit. There is supposed to be an update on that plan periodically, and you're right, I haven't seen one. I don't know what the time frame is either. The other thing I will say is, the driver for doing this was all about a lawsuit brought by the
Conservation Law Foundation.
Conservation Law Foundation. And once the town started actually doing some sewering, I think they sort of backed off. It's like they're just assuming it's gonna get done, because nobody, as far as I know, has that pressure right now to say, yeah, you gotta get this done tomorrow, as opposed to next week or 6 years from now or something. So it was a good committee. We would have the engineers come in, talk to us, blah, 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 blah. But it was mainly formed to keep the public informed about what was gonna happen in certain areas. So matter of fact, we advocated at one point to take the Alborough House and make it into a wastewater center for information, if nothing more. Set stuff up in there, charts and graphs and all that, and have the general public be able to go there and ask questions, et cetera. It all fell apart because the selectmen decided to do something else, so.
Good question. So it sounds like Chatham is going with sewer system already.
Oh,
And
way ahead
I'm
of
hearing
us.
about
Way
Dennis too.
Chatham is sewering their whole town.
Yeah, the whole town. And I thought Dennis is
Yep.
moving forward on the sewer. So are we saying that what Harwich is doing has not been finalized?
No.
Because I feel like
What we're
these
saying
towns
is,
next
what
to
we're
us-
saying is, the first opportunity, and I negotiated this when I was a selectman with Chatham, the first opportunity was for Harwich not to build a plant,
Okay.
but to send our crap to,
Dennis, I thought.
no, well, first
Okay.
to Chatham.
Oh,
Because
sure.
remember, that's all about Pleasant Lake, or,
Okay.
excuse me, yeah, Pleasant Lake,
Pleasant Bay.
right, that estuary.
Okay, yeah, okay.
Then the next one was, okay, we had discussions with Dennis, because they had to build a plant, and can we send some of our stuff there?
Mhm.
Somehow I think that fell apart, because I haven't heard anything about it lately. But I know Dennis is actually building their plant right now by
Right.
the transfer station up there.
Okay. But, go ahead.
I just know that through cooperative effort sponsored by the county, that the base now, Cape Cod Joint Base, whatever it's called
Maybe
now,
Cape Cod.
is now, has an area that is an actual testing facility for new systems. And they're
Yep.
testing stuff now that might be the holy grail someday, where we say we can put all these in for this much money and save us millions going into the ground and that kind of stuff. There's technology going on right now. I guess my biggest, going back to when Peter and I were on the select board, it used to be, when you talk about the grams going in, it used to be 10 parts per million. And then one day they changed it to 5 parts per million because they weren't getting any results at 10 parts per million. And then they changed it to 2 parts per million. And then they changed it to 1 part per million. And then they said your water's polluted, even though the standard had changed, but the actual water testing hadn't
Anyway,
changed.
relative to the conversation, because I don't think we're going to decide on some kind of, we tend to
We are not
not
in the
end up
wastewater
doing
business.
analysis, and we're not
Yeah, we're
wastewater
not-
people. But I will at least contact the select chair to see if there is, what is going on Sure.
Yeah.
Michelle?
My understanding is that the wastewater plan is in the process of being updated,
Well, let me
but I
check.
don't know the timing.
Yeah.
Scott
Well,
knows
and-
that,
and-
yeah.
And who is doing it? So let me
Yeah.
check with,
And I would just say this, that a couple of years ago, from this finance committee, Michelle, you and I met with the.
Yes,
We went down to the water department and met with the water commissioners, et cetera, because we felt at the time that this capital plan didn't reflect the fact that there was a coming new project and it should be put into the plan. And we were as slotted over it. I mean, how
Yeah.
dare you? We know what's best. But the water superintendent at that point in time, who has since left, was all in favor of it. I mean, we were drawing up, timelines and dollars and everything else. And the selectmen got wind of that and it was like, we're done.
still have the charts.
Yeah, you probably
We
do.
put all these white papers
Yeah.
and Peter,
and we had the fight with the
Yeah.
capital
and
people,
then,
because we had zeros out in the 5-year plan,
Yeah.
and we
and
still
the
have.
town administrator was
Basically,
mad.
still have zeros out in 5, yeah, that's right, we've been
And,
through
and in
some
the
version
meantime,
of this.
Tony has a $500 million number in a letter that we saw that he didn't tell us where it came from.
Well,
But
or what
that
it,
gives me
or what it means, so
Yeah, but I think the best approach is circle back to the
let
chairman
me
of the board of
circle back
selectmen.
to the select board.
Find out what's going on. If we can be helpful, we'll be glad to be helpful.
The capital outlay plan, we had some brief conversation. Hopefully people saw, or at least are aware of the fact
Yep.
that there was a draft capital outlay plan
Yep.
Now have a
in
copy.
the packet this past week. Some people, printing it out, at least for me, was somewhat entertaining, as the pages of that, through that packet keep changing their sizing. But anyway, it is,
That's why I
it's
put it on
identified,
one
I think, as
page.
draft 1, even though he calls it draft 11. I hope people go and look at it. We're not gonna discuss the capital plan
Can I comment? May I
here.
comment?
You may, not this second. But please go and find it and familiarize yourself with it, because it will be, it is the first delivered draft to the public of a capital plan. I did want to see if the 2 members of the capital outlay committee want to make any brief comments about the status of the capital outlay plan.
I just want to make, go ahead.
Scott first.
No, please.
I just,
So,
yeah, go
I
ahead.
would just say that.
Delay.
Who's on
I would
first?
say that in total, for the years that are in both this year's 5-year capital outlay plan and last year's, which are fiscal 27 through fiscal 30, across those 4 years, the total capital outlay is relatively constant. It was 48.3 million last year for 27 through 30. Now it's 50.2 million. Some of the major drivers are the fact that the Saquotucket bulkhead replacement program has now become a repair program, which is saving us something like $7 million. But there are a few other items that have increased. There is a new pumper in the fire department's request. There is an increase in the cost of the water department's storage facility at, I think it's 196 Chatham Road. A couple of other changes that almost exactly offset the savings from the Saquotucket Harbor project, which is good news that there was an engineering study that concluded that a partial repair could give us at least 10 years worth of useful life instead of a wholesale replacement. So those are the major highlights in terms of changes from a year ago. There are a bunch of other little pluses and minuses, but
I guess my question is, my question isn't, again, we weren't gonna talk about details, but I was interested in some opinion feedback. Are you as an evaluator, do you have disagreements with the committee? Are you voting for or against things? Some opinion to
yeah,
put
okay.
in.
I have a couple of opinions. One is the fact that I think that they should look closely at the possibility of combining the DPW storage and repair facility with the proposed water facility replacement. There might be some economies of scale. We mentioned that, I mentioned that at not the last meeting, but the meeting before that. My other question was the fact that the golf storage facility replacement is proposed to be funded out of general funds and not out of golf receipts, like for instance, the bunker replacement is a capital project in the plan, that's funded out of golf receipts, but the storage facility is not. And I question the fairness of that to, the average taxpayer who never goes to the golf course. Other than that, I think that these requests are unavoidable. They're building replacements. We visited the DPW facility. That building definitely needs to be replaced. It's not really safe the way it's set up right now in terms of exhaust handling. And the fire and police department requests are pretty much what we've seen, I think, year after year. We get good life out of all of our vehicles, and they need to be replaced.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Michelle, do you have anything you'd like to?
I wanted to just say, just kind of status, which is every Wednesday we're meeting and the different requesters are coming in and presenting. So if you ever have time on a Wednesday at 11 to 1, you can watch it, if you want to see it. I think that the way that they laid out the capital plan this year is excellent because it's very clear. And then they drop down fiscal year 2027 into a spreadsheet that is the asks and what area they are, what area of the type of expenditure, and where the money's gonna come from.
Exactly, nice addition.
And it's very nicely done, and I thought overall it looks good so far. This year's mostly vehicles. Fiscal year 27 is mostly vehicles.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can I just make a newbie statement? I did not know, and I learned it on Monday night with Capital Outlay, with the chair who got up. I didn't realize there was no designated funding source, that everything came from free cash. That was new. I'm a newbie, so I'm just gonna say that.
There are borrowings,
Yeah.
Or
Oh,
both.
Yeah,
or that,
Yeah.
yeah.
Or there's other sources, because a
Right.
pool of money exists
Yeah.
here.
And it was in response to their whole thing about the free cash and the
Yeah.
percentage and that sort of thing. But she made a point of getting up there and saying that, and I thought, oh, wow, that's,
Well, it's one of the.
So one thing about using free cash to pay for these things,
yeah,
that gets dispositioned at town meeting. If you have to go to a borrowing, the entire town gets to weigh in on it, in
Yeah.
the ballot.
Right.
So my thoughts are, my bent is not to do a lot with free cash on that, just because I think the taxpayers should be the ones that are making
Yeah.
these decisions. So,
yeah.
And I think there's a,
Yeah.
as I've mentioned before, I think that in recent years, there's gotten to be this sort of fuzziness around the free cash and the capital plan as to whether or not we're doing a capital plan based on free cash, or that it's more of a free cash spending plan than a capital plan. And the distinction was mentioned Monday night, that they really should be treated independently. First, you do the plan and figure out how to fund the plan as a totally separate conversation
Yeah.
from, or not be able to fund it currently. But the plan is a capital discussion, and the funding of it is a budgetary, or whatever you want
Yes.
to call it,
Yeah.
a different discussion.
Yes.
Dana?
Yeah, I got the feeling tonight from our town administrator, acting town administrator, that they're specifically looking at that.
Yeah,
The
me
things that
too.
are
I got
kind
that
of new
too.
and swept in there
Right.
are just because they have new people in a lot of positions that are going for the first time. We gotta do this, nobody has talked about this at all, stuff, and he put some of those things in different years, but I think, I'm gonna keep up with this, because this is one of the
Thank you.
documents that I do.
Yep.
I also kind of have the feeling that the reason there's less wastewater being requested over the next 5 years is because they have a chunk of 70 million they have to spend.
Yeah.
That isn't on
That
there.
That is already authorized.
And,
Wow.
you know, if you put that in the years that it's gonna start hitting us, it probably takes up the rest of the
Yeah.
document, so.
Okay, budget
That's that for
timeline
that.
update, I think we, again, it was, town administrator brought up that, and he is updating that sheet of his, 2 pages, whatever it is, every week, if people have a chance to look at it, just to see if in fact they notice any changes. Sometimes there are slight changes in dates. It's been pretty consistent from what I can see, anyway, in terms of the line items and the commentary, but it's good to stay current with the town administrators' timeline for budgetary activities, and to notice where we are explicitly play a role in this. As he mentioned, sometime in December, I forget the date, that there is a joint meeting on the capital plan, but for people to be aware.
And by the way, at that meeting, we actually vote to adopt the capital plan. So you've only got a month,
Right.
Yeah.
and we're adopting the plan.
When we meet in December, anyway, we may need to start conversing about preparations for reviewing the budget. You know, what departments we actually want to invite in, structurally, how we want to go about doing it. As I know you just mentioned that you guys are meeting every week. Do we need to already worry about at that time more frequent meetings? So think about those thoughts before the meeting that we have in December. And I think lastly, are currently on on that great paper calendar in the town administrator's office, we are scheduled for our January meeting to be on the 8th. And the 8th is in fact the second Thursday in January. New Year's Day is the 1st. Is that something anybody wants me to try to change for any reason? Are we all, the 8th is our normal, again,
Right.
that's the second Thursday, it would be our normal meeting day. Or, I just thought I'd mention it before some people I think have already figured that the 1st doesn't count as a
Right,
Thursday.
exactly.
But it is a Thursday.
Well,
I'm good that night, yep.
me too.
Okay, then I'll leave it alone if any.
I'll be dialing in, I'll be working on my
Exactly.
tan by then.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
don't rub it in, don't rub it in.
And I
So bad.
think that's all I have for the night. Does anyone else have
Thank you.
anything they need to throw in?
Move to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Aye. We're back to that sunset.
Do these stay here? Is that the way it is?
Yeah, somebody named Benny.
Oh, can somebody
takes it
turn
home.
the recording
Oh,
off?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, 'cause our meeting has adjourned, 7:52.
Before Tina says something she doesn't want.
Gonna leave you.
Exactly.
Dan, don't go anywhere, I want to show you something. You're gonna get something like this.
We all need to be.
It's gonna be like
home
this,
before-
and it's gonna have your name.
Oh, that's right.
That's your name, and it's
Oh.
gonna
I
have
worked
your,
on that all day
Is it the
today.
Email.
Thursday,
and that's gonna be your
Jets, I guess.
temporary
Yeah.
I just
password.
gotta
Oh,
visit the
shit.
lab
I'll call
on
you
the
and
way
say
up.
hi.
Hey,
Yeah, we're all
I'm
right.
wondering if I can
Because there are
call
open
or
meeting
text
laws
you or
that
call you
are-
up one day. There's some vocabulary and
We're having
recording
chat
that I
shows
don't
in
quite
the-
understand.
Any day,
And
any day. I'm
okay.
so wide open, it's
He's gonna take the
unbelievable.
next
I'd
step.
like to just run some
Yeah,
things by
I
you.
think she's gonna go.
Until the end of December, and then
Then you're
Then you're calling me, I'm in a different.
Florida, are you in Florida or what?
Florida.
Muddling through.
I'll still talk to you,
Thinking about
but
you.
we could go have a coffee any
Yeah.
day you
Yeah.
want.
Okay, that'd be great. I'll
Or
buy you
a
a
lunch, or a dinner,